Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something I think many of us wrestle with. That feeling of being really ambitious, having big goals, but also, feeling kind of lazy, drawn to the easy path.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this constant internal friction, isn't it? The drive versus the drag.
Exactly. It feels like a core human thing. And the sources we looked at for this deep dive have some really fascinating ideas, actually.
Yeah, they offer different angles, hacks, tricks, ways to think about it differently.
Right. Ways to kind of outsmart that inaction, maybe, to turn the ambition into actual stuff happening.
Precisely. And that's really our mission for you today, the learner. We've dug through this material to pull out the most effective strategies we could find.
The goal being to help you manage that ambition and that, let's call it, inclination towards ease.
Yeah, manage it so you can actually make progress on your goals without feeling like you're constantly fighting yourself or getting overwhelmed. Actionable stuff.
Okay, cool. So where do we start? One thing that really jumped out at me was rethinking what laziness even means.
Yes, that was a big one. Instead of seeing it purely as a character flaw, some sources suggest reframing it.
How so?
Well, think of it almost as efficiency in disguise.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Efficiency. How does that work?
Think about it, the person who really wants to exert the least effort.
Yeah.
They're going to find the quickest, most direct way to get something done.
Right. Huh. Okay, I can kind of see that. Like finding shortcuts.
Exactly. That drive for ease can actually fuel innovation, making things simpler, faster, more convenient. A lot of tech comes from that impulse, arguably.
So instead of beating ourselves up for wanting the easy route, maybe it's just optimization.
Yeah.
A natural tendency.
Could be. And on a personal level, that bias towards, minimal effort, it can force you to prioritize like crazy.
How do you mean?
Well, if you're only willing to spend so much energy, you're naturally going to focus it on the things that give the biggest bang for your buck, right?
Ah, right. You automatically filter out the less important stuff because it just feels like too much work.
Exactly. It becomes this kind of ruthless triage system. Only the essentials make the cut.
Okay, that's interesting. And there was another point related to this. Something about burnout. Laziness preventing burnout. Seems backwards.
It does sound counterintuitive, yeah. But the idea is that a certain amount of, let's call it strategic resting, or listening to your body's need for conserving energy, that can be vital for the long haul.
The tortoise and the hare.
Exactly like the tortoise and the hare. If you're always sprinting, always pushing, you eventually crash. Allowing for that downtime, that recovery, it means you can actually keep going longer.
So those moments where I feel guilty for just chilling out, maybe they're actually productive rest.
Strategically productive rest. It's part of sustaining the effort long term.
Okay, I like that reframe.
Yeah.
It feels less like a constant battle. So we understand laziness a bit differently now. What about actually doing things, those hacks and tricks?
Right, the practical stuff. Several really good ones came up. One that was mentioned a lot was micro goals.
Micro goals.
Yeah, sometimes called the 2-minute takeoff or something similar. The core idea is just making the starting point ridiculously small.
Like instead of, I'm going to study English for an hour, it's,
I'll just open my English book for 5 minutes, or I'll review vocabulary for literally 120 seconds. Almost absurdly easy.
okay. And the thinking there is that just starting is the hardest bit.
Exactly. The activation energy, right. It's high. But if the first step is tiny, you barely notice it. You overcome that initial inertia.
And then momentum kind of takes over. You do the 2 minutes and think, oh, might as well do a bit more.
Often, yeah. Those small wins build on each other. Starting is the key.
Makes sense. What else? There was something called temptation bundling.
Ah, yes, temptation bundling. This one's clever. You basically link something you should do, but maybe don't love doing.
Like exercise or studying.
Right. You link that with something you really want to do, maybe something that's even a bit of a guilty pleasure or time waster otherwise.
Okay, give me an example.
Like you only let yourself watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the treadmill.
Oh, I see.
Or you only scroll Instagram after you've learned, say, 5 new vocabulary words.
So you're using the want to do thing as bait for the should do thing.
Pretty much. You leverage your own desires. It's quite effective.
Neat. What about perfectionism? That often feels like a block for me.
Oh, big time. And the sources had something for that too, the good enough rule.
The good enough rule sounds liberating already.
It really is. The idea is to consciously aim for, say, 60 or 70% perfect, instead of getting stuck trying to hit 100% right out of the gate.
Because 100% often never happens, right?
Exactly. As one source put it, and I loved this, a posted blog beats a perfect draft collecting dust.
Ha! Okay, yeah. Get it out there, then maybe improve it later. Progress over perfection.
Precisely. It counters that analysis paralysis that perfectionism can cause.
Good one. What other actionable tips did we find?
Energy matching. This is about knowing yourself, really.
Knowing your energy level.
Yeah, your natural rhythms. When are you most alert, most focused? You align your hardest, most demanding tasks with those peak energy times.
So if I'm useless in the morning, don't try and tackle the big complex report at 9 a.m.
Right. Save that for when you're naturally sharp, maybe afternoon or evening if you're a night owl. Work with your biology, not against it.
Smart. Just makes sense. Okay, what if willpower just completely fails? Like, you know you should, but you just can't.
Yeah. The source is called this outsourcing willpower, using external things to help.
External things, like what?
Tools, mainly. Think website blockers like Freedom or Stay Focused. Things that literally prevent you from accessing your usual distraction traps during work time.
Ah, okay, so you set it up beforehand to keep yourself honest later.
Exactly. It's a pre-commitment. And it can get more serious, too. There are platforms, I think BeMinder was mentioned, where you actually put money on the line. You commit to a goal, and if you don't track your progress or you go off track, you pay a penalty.
Whoa. Stakes are high there.
Definitely a strong motivator for some people. Takes willpower kind of out of the equation and puts external consequences in.
Okay. And our surroundings. Does where we work matter?
Hugely. Environment is key was a strong theme.
In what way?
A cluttered desk, notifications popping off, TV in the background. It all adds friction, makes it harder to start and stay focused.
Creates mental clutter too, right?
Exactly. So the advice is to actively shape your environment for focus. Clean desk, maybe put your phone in another room, turn off alerts, make the path to starting work as smooth as possible.
Reduce the friction. Makes sense. Okay, one more practical one. Rewards.
Yep, smart rewards. Using positive reinforcement consciously.
Like giving yourself a treat.
Sort of, yeah, but strategically. Rewarding the effort, especially small steps. Like maybe after 20 minutes of solid studying, you allow yourself 5 minutes on Instagram.
Oh, okay. So the reward reinforces the behavior you want.
Exactly. Trains your brain to associate the work with something pleasant. It needs to be pretty immediate and related to the effort, though.
Gotcha. Okay, so tons of practical things there. What about the internal stuff? The mindset?
Crucial. How we talk to ourselves about this stuff really matters.
Like calling yourself lazy.
Right. One powerful shift suggested is just changing that label. Instead of I'm lazy, try something like I'm strategically rested.
Strategically rested. I like the sound of that.
It reframes it, doesn't it? It acknowledges the need for downtime without the guilt. It makes rest feel like part of the plan, not a failure.
Yeah, that small language change feels like they can make a big difference mentally. Less self-blame.
Definitely. Then there was the 5-second rule. Did you catch that one?
Vaguely. Something about acting fast.
Yeah. The idea is when you get that little impulse, I should really start X now, you have about 5 seconds before your brain kicks in with all the reasons not to.
The excuses, the I'll do it later, the distractions.
All that stuff. So the rule is act on the impulse physically within 5 seconds. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just move. Stand up, open the book, whatever it is.
Wow. So it's like hijacking your own hesitation.
Pretty much. Interrupting that pattern of pausing and procrastinating, just launching into action before the resistance builds.
Interesting. Quick, decisive action. What else on mindset?
There is also the flip side, visualizing the pain of not doing something.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Instead of focusing on the positive goal, focus on the negative outcome of inaction.
Exactly. Vividly imagine the future regret, the missed opportunity, the consequences if you don't do the thing.
So tapping into loss aversion, maybe? The desire to avoid negative feelings?
That seems to be the psychology, yeah. For some people, imagining that future disappointment can be a really powerful kickstart right now, more motivating than just the positive vision sometimes.
Okay, I can see how that might work. So we have reframing, quick action triggers, visualizing consequences. Now, stepping back a bit, what about the bigger picture? Sustainability.
Yeah, this is fundamental across the sources, relying purely on motivation. It's a trap.
Because it comes and goes, right? It's fickle.
Totally unreliable. The real key, according to the material, isn't having superhuman motivation. It's building systems and habits.
Systems, like routines.
Exactly. Routines, processes, habits that make the actions you need to take more automatic. Things you do almost without thinking, whether you feel motivated that day or not.
Okay. So it's less about feeling like it and more about just doing it because it's part of the system.
That's the idea, creating a structure that supports consistency.
And there was that concept, the lazy ambitious week. How does that fit in?
Yeah, that's about integrating these ideas into a weekly structure. It's not about packing every minute, but embedding small, consistent, easy actions.
Like the micro goals, but planned.
Kind of. Examples are things like a super short morning routine, maybe just writing down one main goal for the day takes 2 minutes.
Okay.
Or scheduling maybe 1 or 2 power half hours in the week, like 25 minutes focused work, then a 5-minute break. Very manageable chunks.
So it's about these tiny, consistent deposits towards the bigger goal, making progress feel less daunting.
Exactly. Small steps, consistently taken, embedded in your routine. It builds momentum almost effortlessly over time.
And underpinning all this, the sources mentioned understanding your why.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Knowing why you're pursuing a goal in the first place. What's the deeper reason? The value behind it.
Because that fuels the intrinsic motivation.
Precisely. When you're connected to that deeper purpose, it's much easier to push through the tough spots or the moments of low energy. It gives the daily actions meaning.
Right. It's not just a task on a list. It's connected to something bigger you care about.
Exactly. And for those really big, intimidating goals, the advice was consistent. Chunk it down.
Break it into smaller pieces.
Much smaller. Don't focus on the whole mountain, just the first few steps. Some sources suggested just identifying the very first 3 actions you need to take.
Just 3. That feels doable.
Right. It lowers that overwhelm barrier significantly. It gives you a clear, immediate starting point instead of staring at the massive end goal.
Okay. And one final piece for building these habits, accountability.
Yes. Leveraging other people. Finding an accountability buddy, someone you check in with about your goals.
Or joining a group.
Or joining a group, yeah. People working towards similar things. It adds that social element.
Knowing someone else might ask you about it. That adds a little pressure in a good way.
It can, yeah. Plus, you get support, encouragement, shared ideas. It makes it less of a lonely struggle.
Right, that shared journey aspect. Okay, wow. We've covered a lot from reframing laziness itself to all these practical hacks, mindset shifts, and system-building ideas. If you had to boil it down, what's the main takeaway for our listener?
I think the core message really is that this tension between ambition and ease, it's normal, it's human, it's not a flaw you need to eradicate.
So don't fight it head on necessarily.
Right. The key seems to be managing it cleverly. Using these strategies to work with your natural tendencies, not constantly against them. It's about guiding yourself towards action gently.
Making small changes in how you act, maybe, rather than trying to become a totally different person overnight.
Exactly that. Small steps, consistent action, smart strategies. You don't need a personality transplant, just some better tools and approaches.
That feels much more achievable, actually. Less pressure.
Definitely.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to ponder. The learner. A final thought based on what we've discussed. What is real efficiency isn't about nonstop grinding. What if it's actually about finding the minimum effective dose of effort, applying just enough energy to the things that really matter?
Which then frees up more time and energy for rest, recovery, and other things you enjoy.
Exactly. Strategic application of effort. So the question for you is, which of these lazy hacks, these clever techniques, feels like it could actually work for your ambitions? Which one resonates?
And maybe take that one step further. What's just one tiny thing, one small action inspired by this conversation that you could try, like today, right now even?
Yeah. What's that first easy step you can take to start bridging that gap between your ambition and that very natural desire for strategic rest?